This one was heavily requested, and here it is, the T9 Mini PC. And in a sea of budget minis, this one is definitely one of the top choices out there. What's so great about it? Lots of things. We'll get into it right after this message. The EaseUS Data Recovery Wizard app is very simple to use and can help you recover your lost data, whether it's on your internal drive, USB storage, or SD card. It also has support for repairing damaged photos and videos. Check out the free trial in the video description to find out what it can recover on your storage drives. So I've sent this GOODTICO, oh, I see what you did there, mini PC to take a look at, and the T9 features the popular Intel N100 budget 4-core processor with UHD graphics. The first thing that surprised me with the T9 is the amount of USB ports, 6 in total. That's very uncommon with the older Lake N chips. I mean, we get some minis on this channel with half that, which can be pretty shite if you're running a wide mouse and keyboard. GOODTICO's T9 is available for $180 on Amazon.com after the coupon, or £160 on the UK store. Both come with the same configuration, a 512GB SSD and 16GB of memory. I think there are way too many ugly mini PCs out there, and luckily, this isn't one of them. This simple but fine looking black plastic box with rounded edges is also well put together. It's solid and doesn't feel cheap. It gets a thumbs up from Borat. One thing I would have preferred is if the power button lit up when you press it instead of the small light on the side. But whatever, I'll live. Apart from the power button, there's an audio jack and two USB 3 5GB ports. On the back we have a barrel jack power connector, dual USB Type-C 10GB, both which support power delivery and display. Also gigabit LAN, dual USB 2 and HDMI 2.0. You can connect up to 3 4K displays on this one by using the HDMI ports and one of the USB-C ports. And since I finally bought a USB-C monitor for testing, I can confirm that both USB-C ports on this Mini do indeed support power delivery and display. Yes, one USB-C cable to rule them all. Pretty freaking cool. So the T9 has the best port selection I've seen on an N100 mini PC if you're not after 2.5GB networking or dual LAN jacks. This Mini comes with an instruction manual, barrel jack power supply, monitor mount, screws, and a HDMI cord. Intel's N100 is an interesting low-powered CPU. It has hardware video decoding and adds the AV1 codec, so stuff like YouTube and H.264 files will play at 4K 60 at reasonable bit rates, no problem. It's plenty powerful for everyday computing like browsing the web and beats the Raspberry Pi 5 in emulation. You can even do some basic 1080p video editing on it. So it's a versatile mini PC for a low price. Let's have a quick look inside of the GOODTICO T9. Normally I'd complain about the glued on rubber feet, but no, these aren't, and they pop off easily, so I get to keep my sanity. Then there are 4 screws to remove. The lid comes off really easily. Great. I suspect this metal plate is to act as a heatsink on the storage drives, and just 4 more screws to get to the inner sanctum. 2 M.2 slots, and the 2242 SATA SSD slot is occupied, allowing you to add a 2280 NVMe drive on the other for extra storage. Awesome. No thermal pads though, and it's hard to tell if the metal plate bumps uglies with the storage drive stickers, but I assume that's what it's for. Intel's older Lake N processors only support single channel memory, and there's a 16GB DDR4 3200 stick of RAM included. The M.2 Wi-Fi Bluetooth card is the Realtek 8822CE, which is replaceable. This is a mini PC that just keeps on giving. DDR5 would have been nice though. Anyway, Windows 11 Pro is installed on the M.2 drive and has the annoying initial setup of requiring you to connect to the internet and log in or sign up for a Microsoft account. Luckily, you can skip that by pressing Shift and F10 at the same time on the keyboard, clicking into the command window and typing OOBE/bypass NRO. Press enter and it'll restart and allow you to skip the internet section. Oh, and Ubuntu worked fine straight off a USB drive like it has for every older Lake N Mini so far. Now we head into the benchmarks. The GOODTICO T9 punches in the big leagues. It's the third fastest N100 recorded. Less than 1% separates the top performer, so there's virtually no difference here. And in multi-core, it takes second spot amongst the N100s. It's the fastest N100 mini that doesn't need any BIOS power limit tweaking. Thank God for that. Again, less than 1% against the top performer. Nothing to it. The T9 drops down to 4th place in video encoding. This time the difference between it and the best performer is under 4%. If you can guess why, I'll place a gold star on your forehead. DDR5 memory improves the integrated graphics and video encoding performance, so pat yourself on the crotch if you got it right. The difference between DDR4 and 5 isn't huge, but it is something. And that something is a 5% drop against the best performer in DX11 and 3% in the DX12 benchmark. We saw earlier the storage drive is a 2242 SATA SSD, and it sure performs like one. No surprises here. Sequential transfers are slower than the Gen 3 X2 speed of the NVMe slot, but Windows relies on the random 4K file benchmark, and the result is similar to an NVMe drive. So it's just as snappy. One of the big misconceptions with the N100 is that it can play AAA games. It's pretty far off. Even an old one like Grand Theft Auto 5 runs at console-like frame rates at 720p.
Fuck these guys! Move! We're coming through! Can't be many more cops in this town!
The N100 does better with some esports games. Drop the detail settings for more frames. And Valorant is also playable at 1080p. Other esports titles like Counter-Strike 2 and Dota 2 won't be a good experience at 1080p. Alright, moving on to PS2, GameCube and Wii emulation. Some harder to emulate titles will need to be dropped to native resolution. The GOODTICO T9 is up there with the best minis when it comes to idle power draw, only chugging 7 watts, and just 27 watts recorded as the max. That makes it one of the best when it comes to power draw versus performance. But the good news doesn't end there. CPU temperature is also low on this one, and it's kept cool with little fan noise. Like most M.2 SATA drives, this one doesn't have a temperature sensor. I thrashed the drive for 15 minutes and it didn't thermal throttle, so that's good at least. In the BIOS you have some options like AC power loss, wake on LAN, and wake system from S5 if you're looking for those options. Okay, so I think it's clear that my decisions are mostly data driven, and it's not hard for me to say the T9 is good to go. Oh, I see what I did there. It's an impressive N100 mini PC. The port selection is unmatched unless you need faster networking. 2 USB-C ports with power delivery and display out is a pretty killer selling point. Dual M.2 slots aren't common on the budget end either, so I'm happy to see it here. Cooling works great, and fan noise is low. What I don't like is that the T9 uses DDR4. That's a drop of around 5% on the iGPU. Not huge, but would have made a great mini even better. Ethernet is only gigabit, and the Wi-Fi chip isn't the latest. It also didn't make me breakfast this morning, so there's that too. Overall, GOODTICO's T9 is one of my favorite N100s and comes highly recommended. Amazon US and UK links in the video description if you're interested, or if you prefer a mini PC with Wi-Fi 6 or dual 2.5 gigabit Ethernet, then the Beelink EQ12 is for you, my friend. Check out the review right here. Cheers!